Go.
Yeah.
Oh, make sure you
You have to do something for. Yeah.
I can't get it. Okay.
make sure you hold it.
Hello, my name is Randy Cable, and I'm here to talk to you today about addiction. You know anyone who struggles with addiction? I'm sure you probably do, because addiction has swept our country in the last 30 or 40 years. According to DrugAddictionHelp.org, drug addiction affects nearly 6% of the people residing in the United States. Drug addiction may be a frightening prospect because no one wants to imagine their son or daughter addicted to drugs, but addiction is a treatable disease. Recently, addiction was categorized as a brain disorder by the American Society of Addiction Medicine. Many people still view addiction as a moral failing or strictly as a behavioral or criminal issue. But according to recent research, addiction is, in fact, a disease. Ask anyone who's addicted to drugs whether or not they have the choice in their endless pursuit of whatever substance feeds their addiction, and they will likely laugh at you. I relate addiction to placing your hand on a hot stove. A non-addicted person wouldn't touch the stove again, whereas an addict will try it again because they perceive the results will be different. But how does drug addiction begin and what causes it? There are complex issues that I will only touch on because I suffer from addiction. I want to talk about how addiction has affected my life, how I view addiction, and how I escaped the death sentence that addiction has given me and found a new life in recovery. Addiction is a complex combination of biological predispositions, such as whether or not addiction runs in your family, and socio-economic factors. What led me into my addiction began long before I actually picked up the first drug, and that was a deep sense of alienation to the world around me. Ask the majority of drug addicts and they'll repeat the idea that they never felt a part of anything, including their school life, peer groups, or even their family. When an addict uses drugs, they achieve a temporary feeling of wholeness that eludes them when they are not using. I began using because, like most addicts, because I wanted to have fun, fit in, and rebel against the world that made me feel so alone and different. I used a little bit of everything until I found prescription opiates due to a car accident, which escalated my tragic love affair with self-medicating myself that eventually caused me to lose the ability to function as a human being emotionally. At its core, addiction has very little to do with the actual drug. Drugs are just a symptom of an addict's inability to cope with day-to-day life or escape from their emotions. Some addicts choose marijuana, alcohol, or heroin, while others find solace through sex, pornography, and gambling. This is why in the treatment of addiction, one must address the underlying issues so the addict doesn't find a way to self-medicate with less intensive consequences, because they begin to believe that the substance was their only problem, when in fact their problem is emotional and spiritual in nature. Addiction has become a costly problem for the American people. DrugAbuse.gov estimates the total overall cost of substance abuse in the United States, including productivity and health and crime-related issues, exceeds $600 billion annually, and the war on drugs, which has traditionally seen addiction only as a criminal and behavioral issue, has had very limited success. This is why many in our government are starting to see the benefit of addressing addiction as a treatable disease instead of sending addicts to prison without any opportunity to escape a life of recidivism, misery, and/or death. This brings me to my chart. This is the yearly cost of incarcerating a drug offender versus the cost of treatment in the state of Maryland. I believe this was done in 2011. You'll see the cost of incarceration is $20,000 for the cost of treatment, which is $4,000. And this was from Justice Policy Institute. I believe it was in 2011. That's a significant difference in or disparity in the cost of treating a person versus incarcerating them. You know, and I believe treatment is a better option because it gives an addict hope rather than living a life of being in and out of prison. I believe, like most addicts, that I was too damaged to ever live a normal life, but I woke up in prison for the third time and looked at myself in the mirror and told myself that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the life for me, and I found a purpose to build on that epiphany by helping other addicts. I've been free of a life of substance abuse since January 19th, 2011. Today I work as a substance abuse counselor. I try to live my life in service of the greater good, the society that I rejected, my fellow man, and God who kept me alive to find myself among the cinders of a life nearly wasted in despair. Addicts in recovery are some of the most humble, spirited human beings on the planet because they have walked through the valley of shadow death and found rewards of establishing a life in the light among the living. Through working on one's addiction and impulsive behavioral problems associated with it, we can inevitably turn our liabilities or shortcomings into assets that allow us to help other people and better society as a whole. If you know someone who suffers from addiction, you do not have to let them stay at your house or give them money, but if you offer them compassion, you might just plant a seed that gives them some hope that there is a solution, that they too can find hope in the light of recovery. If I can do it, anybody can. Thank you.